ॐ तपकथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि वदन्ति भूरिराजन्. Your words are like nectar, bring life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome, everyone, to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're in chapter 28 at the Star Theatre, and it begins on Friday, September 19th, 1884. It was the Mahalaya, sacred day of the Hindus, and the day of the new moon. And Sri Ramakrishna is in his room. The chapter is at the Star Theatre, but it starts out just in Sri Ramakrishna's room, and he's sitting with the two Mukherji brothers, Mahendra and Priyanath, and Baburam, Harish, Kishori, and Latu. So we stopped last time on page 540. And the conversation had been mostly with a Goswami visitor who had come. Where was he from? Radhika Goswami. He was a Vaishnava scholar, and he came around 3:00 in the afternoon that day. So the conversation has been either with him or connected with him, mostly. Master to Goswami. I've sung these songs to suit your Vaishnava temperament. There were several songs about Sri Krishna and Gauranga, Chaitanya Deva, and Vrindavan, and similar songs. I've sung these songs to suit your Vaishnava temperament, but I must sing differently when the Shaktas or others come. Here, people of all sects come. Here means to Dakshineshwar and to him. Here, people of all sects come, Vaishnavas, Shaktas, Karta Bhajas, Vedantins, and other members, also members of the modern Brahmo Samaj. This Karta Bhaja, this was one of the Vaishnava sects, you can say, that main spiritual leader was a Vaishnav Charan, who was a very good friend of Sri Ramakrishna. Thakur didn't approve of all of their practices. They did a little bit of left-handed type of sadhana and things, but they used to come to him. And Vedantists for Sri Ramakrishna will mean the Jnanis and sannyasins maybe. So here, people of all sects come, Vaishnavas, Shaktas, worshippers of Divine Mother, Karta Bhajas, Vedantists, so that'll be Totapuri, and then others, the Jnanis, and also members of the modern Brahmo Samaj. Therefore, one finds here all ideals and attitudes. It is by the will of God that different religions and opinions have come into existence. God gives to different people what they can digest. The mother does not give fish pilau to all her children. All cannot digest it, so she prepares simple fish soup for some. Everyone cherishes his own special ideal and follows his own nature. This is this really ancient spirit of this Sanatana Dharma. Sri Ramakrishna is not presenting anything theoretically new, but it was never extended outside of the Hindu tradition, and it was never practiced the way that Sri Ramakrishna practiced it, because he didn't just show this sense of sympathy for the other traditions; he practiced them. So this was something really unique. People often wonder why did Swamiji say, Avatara Varishta, one of the greatest of all avatars. Of course, we can't read his mind, but one of the answers that we often hear is that each of the other avatars emphasize one specific spiritual path, or at most two, but no one was so well-rounded, and no one else came with this idea that each one is perfect in itself, and each combination is perfect in itself, and with such a liberal view, and not liberal for the sake of being liberal, because he practiced these things and he knew that this was something that was essential for not just harmony among different communities, but for individual spiritual practice. That even within a family, you can have people practicing different traditions and everything. I mentioned before, when I was in India for a year as a student, that I stayed with the family. Father was a great devotee of Mother Kali. Every Saturday night he went to Kali Ghat. And the mother was great devotee of Shiva, always talking about Baba this, Baba that. And they had a little girl. She was 11 at that time, and she loved the baby Krishna. So they had all of these things in their house, and they all didn't mean anything to anybody. They had perfectly harmonious. They provide various images for the Bharavati. What is this Bharavati? Anybody? There's a footnote. A religious festival, the cost of which is borne by the whole community. There's something more than that.
Common to the general type of worship where all the communities can come.
Yeah, so that's all. Nothing more specific than that.
Yeah, that is the thing. Like they collect subscriptions, small subscriptions
Ah,
for
ah.
whole area.
Okay, this is actually what we find in Hindu temples in this country. That they'll say you go to Shiva Vishnu temple, almost all the big temples, that they'll have one place where there's Sitaram, another place where Radha Govinda, another place where there's Ma Durga and Shiva, and they'll have some place, something for everyone to come to. So that kind of spirit.
But that is not the Bhagavad.
No, I know, but the same spirit.
Okay.
Yeah, this universal spirit. They provide various images for the Bharavati because people of different sects assemble at it, just as they all come to these big temples. You see their images of Radha Krishna, Shiva Durga, and Sita Rama, different images in different places. A crowd gathers before each image. The Vaishnavas spend most of their time before the image of Radha Krishna, the Shaktas before Shiva Durga, and the devotees of Rama before Sita Rama. But it is quite different with those who are not spiritually minded at all. In the Bharavati, one sees another image also, a prostitute beating her paramour with a broomstick. Those people stand there with gaping mouths and cry to their friends, "What are you looking at over there? Come here, look at this." All laugh. Radhika Goswami saluted the master and took his leave. Yeah, that was probably the limit that he could swallow. It doesn't say anything, but yeah, that could have been Thakur's way of saying, okay, you can go now. It was about 5 o'clock. The master was on the semicircular west porch. Baburam, Latu, the Mukherji brothers, M, and some other devotees were with him. Now we'll see something with Sri Ramakrishna. Sometimes somebody will come, very often the Vaishnavas, and or those who follow very exclusively follow one particular path, and he'll talk in a particular vein. He'll praise them. First of all, he'll praise them, and then from the other side, he'll criticize them for being too narrow and everything. Then afterwards, he'll say to the devotees, "Did you see what I did?" Very proud of himself, like a little boy. Very cute with the way he does that. Anyhow, Master to M and the others, why should I be one-sided? The Goswamis, see, he was praising this Goswami so much, and now we'll find out. The Goswamis belong to the Vaishnava school and are very bigoted. They think that their opinion alone is right and all other opinions are wrong. My words have hit him hard. Yeah, because so many times he didn't argue or anything, but so many times Thakur says things and Goswami listened in amazement. Obakoi, the speechless in amazement, because it wasn't used to hearing uh, these things. A couple of things had to do with this idea of this false humility, always saying, I'm a sinner, I'm a sinner. So Thakur hit him hard against that. And then again, the sectarianism. They think that their opinion alone is right and all other opinions are wrong. My words have hit him hard, smiling. One must strike the elephant on the head with a goad. That is the elephant's most sensitive spot. Then Sri Ramakrishna told a few naughty jokes for the young men. Master to the devotees. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't get to hear these. Yeah. I don't give the youngsters a pure vegetarian diet. That means not always just the religious, the spiritual teaching, sometimes some jokes and things. Now and then I give them a little water smelling of fish. Otherwise, why should they come? The Mukherji brothers left the porch. They went to the garden for a stroll. Now they walk out after this. So Sri Ramakrishna may have a slight thing. Oh, did I maybe offend them? Something like that. Just he was like a child, really. Master to M. I wonder whether the Mukherjis have taken offense at my jokes. M. Why should they? Yeah, they have been coming for a long time. They knew Sri Ramakrishna. I doubt very much whether they were offended by that. Uh, they knew his nature. M. Why should they? Captain said that you were like a child. After realizing God, a man becomes childlike. Master. Yes. And sometimes he behaves like a boy and sometimes like a young man. So, yeah, so I'm behaving like a teenager, telling dirty jokes and things. As a boy, he is very light-hearted. He may use frivolous language. As a young man, he is like a roaring lion while teaching others. You had better explain my state of mind to the Mukherjis. M. I don't have to do that. Haven't they the sense to see it? Again, the master became light-hearted with the boys. Then he said to one of the devotees, Today is the new moon. Go to the Kali temple in the evening. We have another footnote. The night of the new moon is especially auspicious for the worship of the Divine Mother. It was dusk. They heard the sound of gongs, cymbals, and other instruments used in the evening service in the temples. The master said to Baburam, Come with me to the Kali temple. He and Baburam, we know, on an occasion like this, will have to be by his side because the mere fact that it's sunset, sun is going down. Sri Ramakrishna always goes into a special spiritual mood. The fact that it's the new moon night and that they're going to the Kali temple, so it's almost certain that he'll go into some ecstatic mood. He and Baburam went toward the temple, accompanied by M. At the sight of Harish sitting on the porch, the master said, What is this? Is he in ecstasy? Going through the courtyard, the master and the devotees stopped a minute in front of the Radhakanta temple to watch the worship. Yeah, very often because they're right next to each other. You pass one and you go to the other. Then they proceeded to the shrine of Kali. With folded hands, the master prayed to the Divine Mother. O Mother, O Divine Mother, O Brahmamai. Reaching the raised platform in front of the shrine, he bowed low before the image. The oddity was going on. He entered the shrine and fanned the image. The evening worship was over. The devotees bowed before the deity. It was the night of the new moon. The master was in a spiritual mood. Gradually, his mood deepened into intense ecstasy. He returned to his room, reeling like a drunkard and holding to Baburam's hand. Baburam was at this particular time. Sri Ramakrishna went through different stages and things. This particular time, Baburam was really the only one that could touch Ramakrishna in this state when he was in this ecstatic state. Uh, he used to say that he's pure to his very bones, very innocent like a child. The others, of course, were of the equal spiritual stature, but something special about this Baburam, this purity of heart that Sri Ramakrishna felt that he had to be with them at these times. A lamp was lighted on the west porch. The master sat there for a few minutes, chanting Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om, and other mystic syllables of the Tantra. Presently, he returned to his room and sat on the small couch facing the east. He was still completely absorbed in divine fervor, and generally, he would either sit facing north or facing east. He had just walked into his room, so they were all there, so they're facing that direction, facing the direction of Kali Temple. When M first went there, he was facing east. He walked in that way, and he saw Thakur sitting there. He said to the Divine Mother, Mother, that I should first speak, and you then act. Oh, that's nonsense. What is the meaning of talk? It is nothing but a sign. One man says, I shall eat. Again, another says, no, I won't hear of it. Well, mother, suppose I had said that I would not eat. Wouldn't I still feel hungry? Is it ever possible that you should listen only when one prays aloud and not when one feels an inner longing? You are what you are. Then why do I speak? Why do I pray? I do as you make me do. Oh, what confusion. Why do you make me reason? As Sri Ramakrishna was thus talking to God, the devotees listened, wonderstruck to his words. The master's eyes fell upon them. Yeah, Sri Ramakrishna, when he's in this in between mood, that a little bit higher and he's merged in mother, a little bit lower, he's a child doing whatever she says, he'll get confused. Not really confused, of course, but mother, am I feeding you or are you feeding me? This type of thing, because he understands the truth of both attitudes, different ways of looking at it. So very often we'll find him talking to mother. Why do you play with me like this? Why do you confuse me and everything? Again, like a child. Master to the devotees. One must inherit good tendencies to realize God. This is a very important theme in the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. We wonder sometimes why he makes so many distinctions about different types of people. How can he say somebody's a bound soul? He'll say bodhajib. Some are bound souls, some are striving for liberation, some are free, some are perfect, all different types, because he knows that from the point of view of the jiva and the mind and all of our samskaras and the tendencies and everything, we're all different. And some of these are so strong that it's very hard to break through, even to have any longing to break through. He talks about the fish that don't make any attempt to get out of the net. They burrow themselves into the mud and think they're safe and everything. So Sri Ramakrishna had a very strong faith and belief in this idea that we're all born with different types of tendencies, samskaras, from what we did in a previous lifetime. And these will make spiritual life and spiritual practice very easy for some of us. It'll make it more challenging for others. And there'll be some that maybe they'll have to go through a whole lifetime of enjoyment and trying to fulfill all their desires and then learn some lessons in this lifetime. When Draupadi's clothes were being taken off, she cried earnestly, praying to God. There's another footnote here. She was the wife of the 5 Pandava brothers. Yeah, there's a story about that. That the Pandava brothers that one came home or something, said, "Look what I brought," and the mother said, "Oh, you better share with all your brothers," and it was the wife. So she became the wife of all of them. Something like that. God revealed himself to her and said, "Try to remember whether you ever made a gift of a cloth to anyone, then your modesty will be preserved." Draupadi replied, "Yes, I remember now. Once a rishi was taking his bath. When his loincloth was carried away by the current, I tore off half my cloth and gave it to him. Thereupon the Lord said, 'Then you have nothing to fear.'" Yeah, the story is that no matter how much of her sari they pulled off, that there was no end to it. Yeah, something like that. M was sitting on the small. Yeah, we remember that in the very beginning that M, he doesn't say that he doesn't believe in rebirth, but he says he doesn't have much faith in samskaras, which are the same thing, his way of saying it. And this is a theme that runs through the whole thing, the gospel. Many times Sri Ramakrishna will say, yeah, you have to admit, this is Narayana, is Potu or something, that they were born with good samskaras. And then M said, yes, now I understand, I admit it. And he said, gradually I'm coming to understand everything. Yeah. So M was sitting on the small foot rug. Master to M, you have understood what I said. M, yes, sir. You spoke about inherent tendencies, samskaras. Master, repeat what I said. M repeated the story of Draupadi. Hazra entered the room. We've been introduced to Hazra many times, but we'll get a little description here. He had been living with Sri Ramakrishna in the temple garden for the past 2 years and had first met the master in 1880 at Shihor in the house of Hridoy, the master's nephew. So this is 1884, huh? 83, 84, September 84. So he'd been there for 2 years. So almost the whole time that M has been coming. Yeah, most of those who worked in the Dakshineshwar temple compound were either relatives of Sri Ramakrishna or those who were known to relatives because they lived in villages nearby to Kamarpukur and Shihor. The Sri Ramakrishna's sister lived there. So Hazra had been living with Sri Ramakrishna in the temple garden for the past 2 years and had first met the master in 1880 at Shihor in the house of Hridoy, the master's nephew. Hazra's native village was near Shihor and he owned some property there. He had a wife and children and also some debts. Yeah, there's another theme that runs through the gospel that his wife is always asking, can he not come back and visit a little bit and see the family and everything? And he was always trying to raise a little money to pay off his debts, but he wasn't much interested. And to see his old mother even wasn't much interested. From youth, he had felt a spirit of renunciation and sought the company of holy men and devotees. The master had asked him to live with him at Dakshineshwar and looked after his necessities. Hazra's mind was a jumble of undigested religious moods. He professed the path of knowledge and disapproved of Sri Ramakrishna's attitude of bhakti and his longing for the young devotees. Now and then he thought of the master as a great soul, but again he slighted him as an ordinary human being. He spent much of his time in telling his beads, very much in public, so that everyone could see. He would sit outside of Sri Ramakrishna's room. Everybody walking past would see him there telling his beads. Sometimes he would chit-chat while telling his beads also. And he criticized Rakal and the other young men for their indifference to the practice, the japa. He was a strong advocate of religious conventions and rules of conduct and made a fad of them. He was about 38 years old. Now, Japa, Sri Ramakrishna, maybe because he didn't give initiation in the traditional way of telling somebody, this is your mantra, you have to repeat it a certain number of times. Maybe because of that, it wasn't practiced so much by his disciples. His initiation was a transfer of spirituality, direct and everything. But he did emphasize tremendously repetition of God's name. That we know was one of the most important things. Well, there was one incident where one of the devotees had met Swami Bhaskaranandaji, who was one of the great luminaries at that time in Benares. And Thakur asked him, what advice did he give? He said, repeat the name of God, repeat the name of Rama. And Thakur was very happy. He said, yes, well, wonderful advice. Yeah, so Thakur, we find him emphasizing meditation for the young boys. He'll wake them up in the middle of the night, have them sit and everything. And not so much with the mala and everything, that at least that we know of. As Hazra came in, the master became a little abstracted and in that mood began to talk. Master to Hazra. What you are doing is right in principle, but the application is not quite correct. Yeah, he used to say things like, what is this devotion, offering everything to God? Everything belongs to God. You're offering things that belong. Things like that, that from a high philosophical point of view, yes, we can agree with these things, but they're not very helpful in practice to take that type of attitude. What you're doing is right in principle, but the application is not quite correct. Don't find fault with anyone. Now, we always associate this with Holy Mother, but Thakur himself used to say it quite often. Not even with an insect. As you pray to God for devotion, so also pray that you may not find fault with anyone. So this was Holy Mother's, what we call her final message to that Annapurnama, that if we are very fond of finding faults, then we have plenty of our own. It's a very nice thing. The second that tendency comes into our minds to consider that somebody, their shortcomings, their faults and everything, second it comes into our mind, that we have to just say, but how easily they could look at me and find things to criticize. And yeah, there's a very good antidote to that. Hazra, does God listen to our prayer for bhakti? Master, surely I can assure you of that 100 times. Now, when this question comes up, does God hear our prayers? That when some skepticism comes, is usually because we don't have that understanding that Sri Ramakrishna had. That God is sitting there within our hearts, hearing everything, every thought. And not that God is up in heaven somewhere with this person is doing this and this and this and this. Now I'll listen to this prayer and can I listen to this and save this one? It's not like that. At least in his understanding, that it goes directly to that indwelling presence within. So it has to be heard. And a sincere prayer will have to have the tremendous power to it, the power to change us. So it's almost not a question of a dualistic idea. We pray to God, God hears the prayer, God answers the prayer. That God dwelling within as the higher self, as the indwelling presence, the inner controller, Antaryamin, that the sincerity of the prayer will affect the change. This is why prayer is so powerful, that it has that power to really burn up a lot of old karma, much more powerful than ordinary meditation. Ordinary meditation, the mind is wandering. The prayer, the mind, we can do it with tremendous sincerity and with tremendous one-pointedness. Whereas meditation is over a long period of time, there may be a little concentration, but the mind wanders a lot. So this is why Thakur emphasized prayer so much. So does God listen to our prayer for bhakti? Hazra asked. Master, surely. I can assure you of that 100 times, but the prayer must be genuine and earnest. So Thakur used to say, you pray with tears in your eyes, that type of prayer. Do worldly-minded people weep for God as they do for wife and children? At Kamarpukur, the wife of a certain man fell ill. That man thought she would not recover. He began to tremble and was about to faint. Who feels that way for God? Yeah, now when it comes to praying for intervention types of things, somebody's very sick, we cure them, this and that, that we have to bow our heads before karma a little bit. We don't know how these things work. But a prayer for bhakti, that's a different thing. We pray for devotion, it'll automatically come through the power of that prayer. Hazra was about to take the dust of the master's feet. Master shrinking. What is this? Hazra. Why should I not take the dust of his feet, who has so kindly kept me with him? So he's not saying that I see God dwelling within you. The Divine Mother is giving these words. Nothing says so much, but yeah, for keeping him with him. But he does. This is the funny thing about Hazra. Sometimes he really, out of devotion, will really understand who Sri Ramakrishna is, the greatness. Then he goes. Yeah, very strange. None of the relatives who came, none of those who from the nearby villages, none of them had the same appreciation for Sri Ramakrishna as his own disciples. All of them. Ramlal was good, better than some of the others. Hazra Hridoy became an absolute torture for him towards the end. There were so many others that I think kind of wondered, why is everyone making such a fuss? They say a prophet is never honored in his own land. So they grew up with him. They knew him as many of them. They knew him as just like any of their other relatives, kids playing around and everything. Very hard for them to see this other side. Master, satisfy God and everyone will be satisfied. Yeah, this is something that it's recited at the end of all these big pujas that we do. Yeah, if God is satisfied, everyone will be satisfied. There's an interesting story. It's with Swamiji himself, that they were all working very hard, very, very hot day. I know that Swami Vigyananji was there. I don't remember who else. Everyone is so thirsty, and he says you can get some water, big glass of water. And Swamiji drank almost the whole thing, a tiny little bit for the others. And they were annoyed with him and everything. But that tiny little bit, they felt completely quenched. Thirst was quenched. Other instances with the Sri Ramakrishna also. But this is from the story about Sri Krishna. Satisfy God, and everyone will be satisfied. If he is pleased, the world is pleased. Once the Lord ate a few grains from Draupadi's cooking pot and said, I am satisfied. Immediately the whole world and all its living beings were satisfied. They felt as if they had eaten their fill. Yeah, who was it? One of the great rishis had come. There were 10,000 or something. They all had to be fed. So, yeah, who was it? Durvasa. Yeah. Anyhow, this is a Puranic story. Huh? Mahabharata. But was the world satisfied, or did it feel that way when the rishis ate their food? To Hazra, a perfect soul, even after attaining knowledge, practices devotions or observes religious ceremonies to set an example to others. I go to the Kali temple and I bow before the holy pictures in my room. Therefore, others do the same. Further, if a man has become habituated to such ceremonies, he feels restless if he does not observe them. So Sri Ramakrishna, he has actually two different teachings about this. One is that a lot of these ceremonial things fall off on their own. There's no need to do it. They may stop doing it. Even things like doing japa and everything like that. And the other is these great souls that there's no need to do it, but they'll do some at least to set an example to others. Now, with Sri Ramakrishna, some things he could do, but there are certain things, doing japa with a mala. There's a very interesting incident that, of course, he's in some special mood at the time. He sees Hazra with his beads, and he says, "Let me see if I can do it." And he takes his mala and his right hand, and he said, "No." And he put his left hand. He said, "Yes, in my left hand I could do it a little bit," and then he gives it back. Yeah. But ritualistic things, especially Vedic rituals that sannyasins are not allowed to do. After his mother passed away, he wanted to do some of these things, this tarpan, and was incapable of doing it. So some things just really drop off and impossible to be done for him. Impossible to be done for others, not needed, or not allowed even for sannyasins. For doing shraddha and things like that for parents. Yeah, when Thakur's mother died, he really, though he had taken the vows of sannyasa, he really wanted to do this offering. And every time he tried to offer the water, it would slip through his fingers, so he couldn't do it. Yeah, Galita Hasta, they say something, because it was sannyasin. But Thakur's going to the Kali temple and everything. Yeah, this was not a show and not for the sake of others. This, as he says, become habituated to it. He feels restless if he does not observe them, but he took such joy out of it. One day, I saw a sannyasi under the banyan tree. He had put the shalagram on the same carpet with his guru's sandals. He was worshipping them. I said to him, "If you have attained knowledge to that extent, then why such formal worship at all?" Now we have another footnote. That is to say, realization of the identity of the Guru and God. He replied, "What difference does it make? Since I do everything else, why not this too? Sometimes I offer the flowers at the Guru's feet, and sometimes to God." Now this reverence for the Guru, very often it gets done backwards. This is not what we're supposed to see. In Guru is really God. What we do is we think God is, look at the Guru as the object of our worship, and not as a representative for God. So we turn the Guru into a God, and this Guru Bhakti and this Guru worship, and then Guru dies, and then everything else drops. So we see this so many times. Some devotees so devoted to the Guru, and Guru passes away, and there's no devotion left for Thakur, Imam, or anything. Yeah, it was all some personality type of cult. So this is a very dangerous thing. That is one thing. This is why there's a very nice verse, this Swami Abhedananda, that added to this Guru Gita thing, that we worship Sri Ramakrishna as the Guru, who is the helmsman who takes our boat across. So a very nice verse. That and in our tradition, we try to look at all the Gurus as representatives of Sri Ramakrishna himself. So if we think that the Guru should be worshipped as God, if it's that person, that individual personality and everything, we raise that, then it's not good for the Guru, it's not good for the disciple either. But if we have this other, we understand Satchidananda himself has come in the form of the Guru, or Thakur in the form of the Guru, then of course, there's a very high understanding. One cannot renounce work as long as one has a body. As long as there's mud at the bottom of the lake, bubbles will be produced. This is one of the essential teachings of Bhagavad Gita. And there, this idea of work includes absolutely everything. It includes breathing in and breathing out. It includes waking and sleeping and just looking after the body, mere maintenance of the body. Everything is a type of work as long as we have this body. But for most people, if we don't do some type of constructed work, then the mind will get restless. We won't be able to spend a full day thinking of God and doing spiritual practice. This was a Holy Mother's emphasis, that we should always never remain idle. If we're not doing the spiritual practice, then do some constructive type of work. She was a living example of that she was always doing something, even as collecting straw and things for stuffing pillows and just simple little things, making pond, always doing something, and encouraged everybody to be like that, because they say the idle mind is the devil's workshop. So he says, as long as there's mud at the bottom of the lake, bubbles will be produced. So this is giving a chance for these hidden samskaras and bad tendencies to come to the surface of the mind if we remain idle. To Hazra, if there's knowledge of one, there's also knowledge of many. What will you achieve by mere study of the scriptures? The scriptures contain a mixture of sand and sugar, as it were. It is extremely difficult to separate the sugar from the sand. Therefore, one should learn the essence of the scriptures from the teacher or from a sadhu. Afterwards, what does one care for books? Now, very often, Sri Ramakrishna will give the same illustration, and he'll simply say, be like the ant and learn to take the sugar and leave. So a lot of this is not just relying on what other people tell us, but using our sense of intelligence, using our sense of discrimination to know what things apply to us, what things are essential, what things are reflective of the time and the place and the culture and are not applicable to us. There's so many things of great importance in the scriptures that we can find. We can build a whole life philosophy around. We don't have to worry about other things. That if there's any question in our mind, then we leave it. Then it's not so important for us. There's that nice story that Swamiji used in Ridgely Manor, and there were some devotees there. He was giving some spiritual teachings and things, and one of them says, but it doesn't appeal to me, I don't like it. Then he says, then it's not for you. And later he says something else. He says, Swamiji, I like that. He said, then it's for you. So not to try to convince somebody. If it doesn't appeal to you, it doesn't appeal to you. That's all. For you, it's not the sugar to take. Then leave it aside. But don't say that it's wrong or that it's not helpful for somebody else. To the devotees, gather all the information and then plunge in. Suppose a pot has dropped in a certain part of a lake. Locate the spot and dive there. So we can also say this is one of the most important teachings of Sri Ramakrishna, that we can't float on the surface in spiritual life, that we have to be very serious and very sincere and really go beneath this surface level of mind. This is why meditation is so important, so that we really can forget this exterior world, external world for just a few moments, and to try to find that treasure within the heart, to go deep, deep within the heart. This is that adubdao that he says so many times, that we have to dive deep and we have to be very sincere. If we just float on the surface, we're not wasting time. It's not that it's not beneficial, but if we're talking about God realization, it's a very special thing. One should learn the essence of the scriptures from the Guru and then practice sadhana. If one rightly follows spiritual discipline, then one directly sees God. The disciple is said to be rightly following only when one plunges in. What will a person gain by merely reasoning about the words of the scriptures? Ah, the fools! They reason themselves to death over information about the path. They never take the plunge. What a pity. So this is the difference between theoretical knowledge and trying to understand things through the intellect and real spiritual practice. Spiritual practice from the point of view of mostly meditation, japa, and prayer and worship, these types of things. Not the reflection and everything, that's also part of sadhana. But Thakur is talking about these other things mostly. You may say, even though you dive deep, you were still in danger of sharks and crocodiles, of lust and anger. But dive after rubbing your body with turmeric powder, then sharks and crocodiles will not come near you. The turmeric is discrimination and renunciation. Now we have, again, a very similar teaching that Sri Ramakrishna gives, that if we're walking in a forest path and it's covered with thorns, that we have to put shoes on. He says the shoes are bhakti. So they're not conflicting ideas. They're just the two different important elements that we need: this discrimination and renunciation, and also devotion. For Sri Ramakrishna, renunciation and devotion go hand in hand. We know that. Vairagya and anuraga. That not caring for the world has to be accompanied by longing for God realization. So we can add, if we like, this turmeric, discrimination, renunciation, and bhakti. He says discrimination and renunciation because there's a song. There's a whole song about this that uses those two specifically, which Thakur sings many times. To the devotees, God made me pass through the disciplines. Here we can say Divine Mother. God made me pass through the disciplines of various paths. First, according to the Purana, then according to the Tantra. I also followed the discipline of the Vedas. That'll be his Vedanta sadhana with Totapuri. At first, I practiced sadhana in the Panchavati. I made a grove of tulsi plants and used to sit inside it and meditate. Sometimes I cried with a longing heart, Mother, Mother, or again, Rama, Rama. While repeating the name of Rama, I sometimes assumed the attitude of a Hanuman and fixed the tail to the lower end of my backbone. Yeah, he used to say that we've all seen his dhoti, that he throws the corner of it over his shoulder, that somehow he tied it around so it was like a tail. Yeah, so it looked like that. But then he also says that the coccyx that grew about an inch during this period. Yeah, his mind was so united, thinking about, identified with Hanuman. I was in a God-intoxicated state. At that time, I used to put on a silk robe and worship the deity. What joy I experienced in that worship. I practiced the discipline of the Tantra under the bel tree. Yeah, if you go to Dakshineshwar, this is the extreme northern part of the compound, just before the wall that goes to the old magazine. There's a military place where they kept the arsenals and things. I practiced the discipline of the Tantra under the bel tree. At that time, I could see no distinction between the sacred tulsi and any other plant. Yeah, one of the tantric ideas is to not make distinction between pure and impure, holy and unholy, different things like that. In that state, I sometimes ate the leavings from a jackal's meal. Another footnote. In a certain form of tantric worship, food is offered to the jackals, the companions of the goddess Kali. This Mahapurush Maharaj did this in his old age, towards the very end. Yeah, he had the young boys go out and leave offerings at night, and then he would say, "Go check in the morning. Did the jackals eat it or not?" Yeah, yeah, they're the companions of Mother Kali. In that state, I sometimes ate the leavings from a jackal's meal, food that had been exposed the whole night, part of which might have been eaten by snakes or other creatures. Yes, I ate that stuff. Sometimes I rode on a dog and fed him with luchi, also eating part of the bread myself. I realized that the whole world was filled with God alone. One cannot have spiritual realization without destroying ignorance. So I would assume the attitude of a tiger and devour ignorance. While practicing the disciplines of the Vedas, I became a sannyasi. I used to lie down in the chandni and say to Hriday, I am a sannyasi. I shall take my meals here. We have another footnote. The chandni is an open portico in the temple garden with steps descending to the Ganges. According to the Orthodox Hindu tradition, a monk is forbidden to live in a house. Yeah, they generally live under a tree or in a cave, wander about place to place. The sky thy roof, the grass thy bed, and food which chance may bring. I vowed to the Divine Mother that I would kill myself if I did not see God. I said to her, O Mother, I am a fool. Please teach me what is contained in the Vedas, the Puranas, the Tantras, and other scriptures. The Mother said to me, the essence of the Vedanta is that Brahman alone is real and the world illusory. The Satchidananda Brahman described in the Vedas is the Satchidananda Shiva of the Tantra and the Satchidananda Krishna of the Purana. The essence of the Gita is what you get by repeating the word 10 times. It is reversed into Tagi, which indicates renunciation. Yeah, this was, of course, the teaching of Totapuri. That Sri Ramakrishna quoted him many times. That he said that the essential teaching of the Gita is to renounce everything for the sake of God. After the realization of God, how far below lie the Vedas, the Vedanta, the Puranas, the Tantra. Yeah, this is all to Hazra, remember. To Hazra, I cannot utter the word Om in Samadhi. Why is that? I cannot say Om unless I come down very far from the state of Samadhi. Because there's no identification with himself as an individual to even be able to say something. Yeah, the mind is just gone or merged in God. I had all the experiences that one should have according to the scriptures after one's direct perception of God. I behaved like a child, like a madman, like a ghoul, and like an inert thing. This is another instance where we'll find these God-realized souls will not have such a variety of different ways of living in the world. That they'll either be like one of these four, or even Stita Prajna, which is completely different from all of these. But Sri Ramakrishna at different times and in different moods was like all of them. This tantric sadhana was really this pishachavat, yeah, like a ghoul, not caring for any cleanliness or uncleanliness or anything. I saw the visions described in the scriptures. Sometimes I saw the universe filled with sparks of fire. Sometimes I saw all the quarters glittering with light, as if the world were a lake of mercury. Sometimes I saw the world as if made of liquid silver. Sometimes again I saw all the quarters illumined as it were, as if with the light of Roman candles. So you see, my experiences tally with those described in the scriptures. Yes, some of these things we read in Shweta Swatar Upanishad. Yeah. It was revealed to me further that God himself has become the universe and all its living beings and the 24 cosmic principles. It is like the process of evolution and involution. Now, this is something that Sri Ramakrishna very often identifies with the post samadhi experience. That in the beginning, the emphasis is on seeing this world as somehow uh, illusory, somehow just like a passing dream, like a shadow, something like that. But then afterwards, this vision changes. This is a theory. This is vijnana, we can say. Uh, then he mentions this evolution and involution. Yeah, this is something. Well, there's a footnote. It says that is to say, God Himself evolves as the universe at the time of creation, and names and forms are involved back into God at the time of dissolution. This is something accepted in almost all the different traditions, even in Sankhya. They won't express this in terms of the Purusha or God or anything, but this going from uh, this projected universe, which comes out of some unmanifest state, and that state of manifestation will eventually lead to some type of entropy or some type of balance of the three gunas, so that there's no active manifestation. All of that will be involved. It'll exist in a potential form uh, in this unmanifest state, so we can come again. It is very much like what we see in nature, that a huge tree will have oak tree, a little be an acorn, and that whole huge tree will be involved in that little acorn, and that will evolve into a big tree. Yeah. So this goes on and on. That there's no end to this process, no beginning. Also, uh, they say, but from the Vedantic point of view, it can be expressed uh, as emerging out of this cosmic being, however we understand it, and then coming back into it again, like the spider and the thread. Oh, what a state God kept me in at that time. One experience would hardly be over before another overcame me. It was like the movement of the husking machine. No sooner is one end down than the other goes up. I would see God in meditation, in the state of samadhi. I would see the same God when my mind came back to the outer world. When looking at this side of the mirror, I saw him alone, and when looking on the reverse side, I saw the same God. The devotees listened to these words with rapt attention, to the Mukherji brothers. So they weren't so offended. They came right back. They're listening to the rest of it. Captain is now really in the state of the sadhaka. This captain, we've come across him many times. This is Vishwanath Upadhyay. He was the representative from the Nepali government who used to come to Kolkata and visit Sri Ramakrishna. Captain is now really in the state of the sadhaka. That the mere possession of wealth should create attachment is by no means true. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, uh, this is a very rare statement for him to make, because he's constantly warning about these power of attraction that money has. Money is a terrible upadhi, he says, that you get a little bit of it and it changes everything. Warning people constantly about this is that kanchan, this is gold for him. He tells the story of the frog who got the rupee. An elephant walked over its head and he said, "How dare you? Don't you know I'm a person of means now?" Yeah. So uh, this is a very rare thing for him to say. The mere possession of wealth, that should create attachment. It's by no means true, but it's true that it can. It doesn't have to. There are examples. Of course, King Janaka is the greatest example, but there are examples of those who uh, have a tremendous amount of money and have no attachment to it. Use it for good purposes and things. Shambhu Mallik used to say to Hridoy, "Hridu, I've packed my things and I'm ready for the journey." This is a common Bengali expression. I said to him, God forbid, why do you say such ominous words? No, replied Shambhu, please bless me that I may cast aside all these possessions and go to God. Of course, this is the same Shambhu Malik that Thakur would say that you ask for dispensaries and other good things at the moment of death. So, and that Shambhu, of course, he died before Thakur did, as far as I remember, and he played a significant role. Jadu Malik and Shambhu Malik both lived within walking distance, the temple garden, and Thakur used to go to his place, and this was during that period when he was interested in Christianity, and Shambhu Malik used to read from the Bible to him. That triggered that experience that he had. I think the painting was in Shambhu Malik's house. Yeah? The famous painting that Thakur had the vision. Anybody remember? Huh? It was in Nanda Bose's house. No, I don't think it's in the San Francisco Center now. They own it. Anybody know? Let me check. The Nanda Bose had lots of different paintings and things, but that particular one, I think Thakur was in Shambhu Malik's house at that time. And we'll find out. No, replied Shambhu, please bless me that I may cast aside all these possessions and go to God. God's devotees have nothing to fear. They are his own. He always stands by them. Once Duryodhana and his brothers were imprisoned by the Gandharvas. It was Yudhishthira who freed them. Yudhishthira said, if our relatives are placed in such a plight, then it is our disgrace. It was about 9 o'clock in the evening. The Mukherji brothers were ready to return to Calcutta. The master left his seat and began to pace the room and the porch. He could hear the kirtan sung in the Vishnu temple. A devotee said that Harish and Latu were in the singing party. Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees went to the Vishnu temple and saluted the deity, the Brahmins belonging to the staff of the temple garden. And also the priests, the cooks, and the servants were singing the kirtan. He stood there a few minutes and encouraged the singers. On the way back to his room, he remarked to the devotees, you see, some of them polish the metal utensils and some go to the houses of prostitution. Still, he was happy that they were doing this kirtan. The master returned to his room and took a seat. Presently, the singers came and bowed low before him. The master said to them, one should perspire dancing and singing the name of God as people do earning money. I'd thought of joining you in the dancing, but I found that you did everything very well. You would flavor the curry with all the seasoning. What could I add? It will be nice if you sing devotional songs that way now and then. The Mukherji brothers saluted the master. Their carriage was ready near the veranda north of the room. The master stood facing the north. On his left was the Ganges. In front of him were the Nahabat, the garden, and the Kuti. And to his right was the road leading to the gate. The night was dark, and the devotee had brought a lantern to show the visitors their way. One by one, the devotees bowed and took the dust of the master's feet. The carriage seemed too heavily loaded for the horses. The master said, aren't there too many people in the carriage? Sri Ramakrishna remained standing. As the carriage rolled away, the devotees looked back at the master's face, beaming with compassion and love. This is the end of that day. We're on page 545, and we'll start next time, Sunday, September 21st, 1884. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukham Bhathura Vikraham Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Sirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace. Peace be unto all.